So, to begin, why don't we start with defining nationalism? How do you define nationalism? I remember in your video you said you are against ethnic nationalism but are more prone to cultural nationalism. How do you define nationalism between the two?
Well, one's about the culture of a nation and one's about the race of the nation, isn't it?
But I think the best way to frame nationalism is to put it starkly against globalism. Nationalism is, preserving of the nation state, upholding the nation itself, and in particular valuing independence and against interdependence. Because the way that I define nationalism as a general thing encompassing civic nationalism, ethnic, so on and so forth, is the wanting for the members of the nation to be, self-determinating, people or group. Do you agree with that?
Well, yeah, okay, that's interesting. I mean, I'm all for national self-determination. That's the reason I want to leave the EU. But you said you're against interdependence. I don't think that that's something you can really be against. I mean, what do you mean by interdependence?
Well, interdependence, it's, opposite of independence. If you are going to make a decision, if you're interdependent with someone else, say your wife, your neighbor, etc., your roommate or whatever, you have less freedom, less self-determination to making that choice because you have to take into account them. Like, for example, China's interdependence with America. Whatever they do and their policies that they decide because they're, decently authoritarian, if they decide to do an economically stupid basically an economically stupid social policy or economic policy, then that interdependence causes, that same negative outcome to the United States.
Are you suggesting what? Are you against international trade?
I'm against it in terms of things such as trade deals between nations and everything like that. If individual corporations and people, want to buy between areas, the only exception to that would be just generalized tariffs. But I don't like things with trade deals like if China puts in the TPP or anything like that. I mean, you've read the TPP, that whole weird section about Iceland.
I mean, it's too big for me to spend the time on, but I find that really weird because trade is a very valuable thing between nations. It makes everyone richer and it helps prevent war.
It's actually kind of funny. I took my major is in political science, so I took a specific upper-level course on that, and it was a combination of economics and politics, and it was the effects of economic sanctions as either a precursor or deterrent to war. And all the realists, I can't remember the particular philosopher who quoted, and the topic was this economic interdependence, reducing war, saying that all dialogue with vastly superior nations derives is the differences between them. Thus, irreconcilable differences will always be irreconcilable unless one of them gives up or it just simply is no longer a thing.
Yeah, but you're going to have to trade because some nations have resources your nation won't have.
Of course, and I even have said before, nationalism as a social policy can't really be done by every single nation because I put three necessary things for a nation to actually become nationalistic. The people individually can be nationalist and such, but to engage in nationalist politics, they need to be able to protect themselves, protect themselves, sustain themselves economically and such like that, and also to, it's kind of a general and wishy-washy thing, but to love themselves. Basically, don't be self-flagellating, don't say, oh, we're terrible because our country did this, and oh, because of that.
This doesn't even sound like nationalism to me. This just sounds like a sensible way to run a nation-state. Obviously, you don't want a self-hating population. Obviously, you want people who are going to work hard and sustain themselves. And obviously, you're going to want to protect the land that you live on. So, I mean, that seems like a pretty general just definition of what a nation is.
Well, I said that's necessary to enact nationalist policies, but the nationalist policies themselves are something different.
Sort of protectionist, anti-trade, anti-movements.
Yeah, kinda, because, of course, if you're going to be nationalist and start to separate yourself from all these other people saying, no, we're not going to engage in the TPP, no, we're not going to uphold our trade deals with China, etc., then you kind of have a beginning of World War II type thing where, Germany separated itself from the international banking system, and that really got particularly Britain angry and upset because of that.
Yeah, but I don't think that means you shouldn't have international trade deals or anything like that. That just seems bizarre to me. I don't accept your definition of nationalism.
Well, I'm not an ethnic nationalist like Millennial was. I'm a civic nationalist. Basically, I should define the nation, but I'm going to do that right after. But civic nationalism is basically kind of applying meritocracy to the nation itself. You are a citizen when you qualify to be a citizen. And I know it goes against our Constitution, but I personally want to get rid of things like the 65 Immigration Act and everything's like birthright citizenship, because we kind of have a weird kind of loophole going on our things. As a classical liberal, rights are inherent, right, to every individual.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But yet we do things such as deny rights to people under 18 to vote, people under 21 to drink, etc., etc.
Don't you think that that's more a case of pragmatism, though?
It is, but it's still a denial of rights.
Voting.
Yeah, but it's still a denial of rights for things such as just, drinking and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, but so by the same logic, you're against prisons, then?
No, not by that logic, but for misdemeanors, it's kind of getting into a personal thing, but I think misdemeanors, prison is fine, but for all major felonies, I would definitely recommend deportation.
Well, yeah, but I don't just mean for foreign nationals or immigrants or anything like that. I mean, for just anyone. If you're against denying, if you want to have children voting because you think
no, I'm not going that way. I'm going and saying that I would create kind of like a citizen to be or a citizen in training kind of thing for people up to the age of 18, saying, you have to have a guardian and things like that, someone that is, of course, a citizen. And then once you reach the age, you're, judged of whether you meet the qualifications to be a citizen and such. You're not mentally retarded, you're not part of some foreign terror cell or a foreign,
Yeah, I see what you're saying. And so, if you fail this, what happens to you?
I wouldn't. It'd be hard to discourage dishonor with it, but I would just say, sorry, you don't achieve citizenship. Whatever country will take you will provide you a trip there. Get your luggage.
But what if no country takes them?
There's always failed states like Somalia.
So you think people who fail a test, say white Americans who are born in America, they fail a citizenship test, they get sent to Somalia?
Ideally, but if anything, with Canada's immigration policy, they'd be likely to take them.
Okay, but do you think that maybe millions of people...
That's ideal. I'm not saying this is going to be realistic or enacted within the next 50 years or something. I'd say that would be a personal ideal, like the height of a civic nationalist social policy for citizenship.
Okay, so, you're going one step further than, say, Heinlein would, by just having them as the citizens being the political body, and then what do they call the other ones? I can't remember what you call the other ones. But basically, non-voting citizens, basically non-political people living in the country who are just private individuals running businesses, blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
You're going one step further than that and saying that these people have to leave the country.
Yeah, that is true. They could maybe get some other kinds of things such as they could apply for a work visa, things like that. Potentially what they could do, it would be necessary to give a reevaluation of them, but if they wanted to stay in the guardianship of their parents, it'd be a weird thing, but I can't really see a legal way that someone could just say, I'm not applying for citizenship at the moment, and just stay under their guardian.
Yeah, this doesn't really sound very ideal to me, or pragmatic at all.
Well, why wouldn't it be ideal to have a standard for citizenship besides just being born within the boundaries?
You know, I'm not even necessarily against Heinlein's idea of a political citizen, where other people are just, what the hell do they call them? Just nationals, I suppose. He had a particular term for it, I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, I don't think exiling people from the country is, people who are born in your country, exiling them to another country on the assumption the other country will take them is in any way ideal.
Well, it's not simply, it's that famous phrase, I don't care where you go, but you can't stay here. It's just a matter of universally treating all people that aren't citizens and aren't on some kind of work visa in the country as people that are just, here illegally.
Okay, but what if one day you didn't qualify as a citizen?
Well, that would be
unfortunate, because you'd have to
just be an unfortunate circumstance for me.
Yeah, so you'd be happy to go to Somalia if someone happened to choose the parameters of what is and isn't a citizen to expel you from the country.
That's definitely true, and that gets into a kind of case against authoritarian imposition into these laws, but I would just have something very simple and very quantifiable with these meritocratic standards, such as both parents being citizens, and also a minimum IQ, something like maybe around the average, or maybe less than half a standard deviation below the average.
Yeah, but why IQ?
Because I think IQ is one of the most solid evidences we have towards success and also just general intelligence. Because, of course,
it's not any sort of measure of morality, is it? I mean, most psychopaths are quite high IQ, intelligent, and perceptive people. So, I mean, it just sounds like you'll create a nation with psychopaths at the top.
Well, psychopaths aren't the most intelligent people, and they're not the majority of intelligent people. And
they flourish in your system, aren't they?
They would until they commit a crime, then felony, deportation, etc. But I have a point that I think you would in particular like about this IQ thing. There's no need for... You said in your Millennial Woes video multiple times that you're against judging by statistics and everything like that. If you judge on individual IQ, there's no need to judge for statistics. The statistics will come out. The majority of people deported will be these low IQ people. But every single person is indeed judged individually.
Yes, I agree with you that that's what would happen, but I don't think deporting people from the country, if they fail this test, is the answer.
So you agree with the system we have now where people who are not functional members of society just either go to prison because they commit a crime before they're caught, or they become wards of the state and basically be put into a home or institution?
I don't think exiling them to someone else's country is the answer.
It's been very successful for all the Middle Eastern countries so far.
That's not what they've been doing.
Didn't you hear that report from the North African guy? Maybe it wasn't Libya, maybe it was Morocco or someone, but a politician from there criticized Europe, saying that Europe is basically full of idiots for taking their scum and trash.
Yeah, but that's not because they had IQ tests and expelled them. That's
it was just a natural circumstance.
Across the Mediterranean and say, oh, well, they've got welfare states, and they're accepting Syrian refugees, they're also idiot cucks, so we can just go over there, get free money, fuck around, do whatever we want, and then, it's an adventure, isn't it?
Indeed. So, but I hold the belief that the more intelligent a person is, the more likely they're come to correct rationale, correct decision-making, and also have a particular pride in their own accomplishment, achievement. Thus, they won't be able to just discard their whole family and everything and just go live. These are the slightly lower than average people who say, "Oh, there's goodness over there. I want some of that goodness."
Yeah, but you don't know that these are lower than average, or you know that these are morally deficient. That's all. You don't know what their IQs are. You don't know whether they're married, and the chances are they're not married, and they seem fairly enterprising to me. I wouldn't personally make the trek, like 2,000-3,000 miles just to get a bit of free money. I just think, no, I can make my own money. But that's because I'm lazy. These people aren't making an incorrect decision for themselves. They're making an incorrect decision for Europeans.
But again, we have to get into the intent of them, which we can't really do. But I would say these are not entrepreneurs looking for things. I would divide them as either economic migrants or ideological migrants.
Yeah, economic migrants are entrepreneurs. They're looking at it from their point of view, saying, I can make a lot of money by doing X.
Yeah, but they're not doing it for some kind of greater thing, like saying, I want to achieve more, and over here is better opportunity. What they're doing is saying, I will be able to eat more, I'll be able to buy more stuff if I go here. It's completely...
Well, yeah, but I think entrepreneurs are generally looking for money. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's probably a big crossover between entrepreneurs and philanthropists. I imagine that there is a lot of, if you were going to look at the Venn diagram, there's probably quite a big overlap there. But there's nothing about being an entrepreneur that means you have to do something for a greater higher good.
Well, I'm not even saying as them being philanthropists. I'm saying doing it in the kind of... You probably haven't read Walden by Thoreau, but his whole point is that when you do something such as go into the woods, build your own house, reap the land and such, the house and what you grow isn't the greatest benefit of it. It's the act of doing it themselves. It's the achievement of doing it and being self-proficient, independent, etc. So the achievement I'm talking about with entrepreneurs is people saying, I've built this great, huge thing, I've made all this money. It's not the money that's sitting in their bank that's the achievement, it's the fact that they were able to make all this money from their own either intellect, potential, talent.
How is that different to the migrants living in a backwards third world nation thinking, if I go over to Germany, spend, 4 years in Germany collecting benefits, and then come back, I come back effectively as a very wealthy man. And so I have achieved all of the same things that you're talking about back in Sudan.
But they haven't achieved it. They've basically just gotten handouts. And I believe you've even read Aristotle.
I have read Aristotle. But the thing is, it's not a non-achievement to walk thousands of miles to go across Europe. I mean, that's a lot of work. That's what would dissuade me. I'd probably be like, I'd probably just be easier getting a farm, But that is still a lot of work. It's not like it doesn't have any kind of toll or difficulty to it.
It's physical work, almost menial labor. I mean,
sure.
We have gazelles and stuff that could do the exact same journey, yet they wouldn't be as honored or everything like that. It's not mental, intellectual, high work, such as managing a business. No, it's not, but neither's
farming.
It kind of is, depending on the level of technology you implement into it.
No, if farming was intellectual, then why would we need, what the fuck's the term?
Yeoman farmers?
No. Why would you have specialization?
Within farming?
No, just within anything. Division of labor. Farming is not an intellectual pursuit. I'm not saying that farming isn't difficult, but it's not something that you're never going to get a doctor who is also a farmer.
I disagree with that. I mean, less than about 40 feet away, I'm growing 2 mangoes and a pomegranate tree. I mean, I think everyone should be able to I think it was in something called the Nationalist Handbook or whatever, and it said some basic concepts.
Because the thing is, two mangoes and a pomegranate tree isn't going to feed a family of 4.
Yeah, that's true. But
to do that requires a full-time investment of labor. That's why you need division of labor, because
I agree with specialization and everything like that, but
that's the basis of civilization.
Indeed, but what I'm saying with specialization of labor, it should come with innate talents rather than just arbitrary, you do this, therefore I'll do this, market principles and everything like that. Now you've made me forget the point. Oh yeah, in the Nationalist Handbook, or whatever, they said some basic skills like cooking, cleaning, and there were like 4 or 5 more that was basic things that every single person ought to be able to do in order for these things. And now we have people, I don't know how to cook, so they eat out of the microwave, and I don't know how to clean, so they live in absolute rat holes.
Well, yeah, I mean, these are just basic life skills that everyone needs to maintain a decent quality of life.
And one of those, I think, should be growing your own food and become self-sustaining in terms of, agriculture, nutrition, etc.
Yeah, but this is what I'm saying, right? You can't run a civilization like that.
Why not? If we can't run a civilization like that, then the world is doomed. If the world is an entire civilization, then...
Well, that's the point. You want some people doing agriculture, and then you want some people's time freed up from agriculture to become professionals at something else.
Mm-hmm. But they still should have a basic understanding of how to, live for themselves if they should so choose.
They should have a basic understanding of agriculture, even if they don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Because it's absolutely necessary to living. I mean, then they become subject to just social whims, and they could become a pariah. If they just say something wrong, everyone imposes societal pressures upon them, and they can say, well, screw you, I'm going to keep my ideas, and I can still feed myself and my family.
Why would you want to do that? Because if you actually have a method of exchange, I don't know, through money, then the people who do agriculture don't have to worry about something else. They can do the agriculture, and they make their money by selling the food, and they get, in exchange for that, the other person makes his money by selling, I don't know, metal or whatever it is he does, and they become, I guess, in a way, interdependent. But this is the foundations of an economy. So, I mean, even within a nation, you would need this. I'm not even talking about internationally. This is what makes a nation's economy. It's people doing different things and exchanging these things for various values, depending on how abundant and difficult they are.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And I'm completely capitalist in the just local, national thing, basically outside of international, tariffs and everything like that. But I still think you need a basic understanding and be able to do these things. I mean, I have no idea how to fix an air conditioner, but I think that someday when I buy an air conditioner and everything like that, before I do that, I should be able to know the things about air conditioners, such as, oh, well, this part looks wrong, why is this doing this, etc., and be able to have a general enough understanding to learn to fix it and maintain it. We can't have every single aspect
you could make
specialized.
Skype then?
Could I make Skype, like program it?
Yeah, could you? Yeah, exactly. Do you know how it works?
No, but I think if I ever want to, get into...
Well, we're using it now, so isn't it something that you should learn how it works?
Should? Yes, people should learn everything they can, but that's another story.
Yeah, but this is really just down to time, isn't it? People have only got limited time in their lives.
Indeed.
It's silly for someone who's being busy learning to be an expert doctor to also learn the ins and outs of agriculture. It's a waste of his time.
I don't think so, and it depends what you mean, the ins and outs. I mean, you can get some very basic things. I mean, agriculture...
Well, he doesn't need to know
right amount of sun, right amount of
ground.
soil, right amount of nitrogen, potassium, and iron in the soil, and, I mean, about a day's work of study and actually going out digging up plants, and you can learn basics what you need to grow a plant. Agriculture is just the expanded upon ideas of that.
Okay, but why would he need that?
He needs it because it's kind of I was talking about before, the metaphysical concept of achievement of doing things, being able to be your own man, and if you have a stance that everyone else doesn't accept, you have the ability to maintain these stance and not be a hostage of the economies of others.
Yeah, but the thing is, I think this is unrealistic, to be polite about it. I mean, there is never going to be a time when a doctor has skills that nobody else wants and has to be his own self-sufficient individual within a society. This is the thing. All of these professions have direct applications that will always be necessary in human society. So what you're proposing is just irrelevant. It's not going to happen.
I forgot, where'd this tangent
It's
go off
like an
on
extreme libertarian position that you should just be an island. And it's like, okay, well, A, it's a lot of work. B, it's pointless.
Well, I'm not saying they should. I'm saying they should be able to, should the necessary thing arise, or at least learn to be able to.
Well, I'm sure they could learn to
quickly.
be able to if it was necessary.
But
then the farmer's going to have to learn how to be a doctor, and it's just silly, isn't it? Because then you say, well, instead of you learning how to be a doctor, why don't you just cooperate, regardless of what your difference is?
he could learn basic medical skills and everything like that. I was a part of the Boy Scouts, and we learned, basic things, CPR,
Yeah, but he can't
asthma
operate.
attacks, etc.
What if he falls ill? What if he's in an accident? It's a silly concept.
Well, outside of fiction, no one can really operate upon themselves.
Well, yeah, exactly. And so if he's in an accident or he gets ill, then, too bad. We're all islands. It's silly. I don't see the point of any of this.
You don't see the point of trying to make yourself a well-rounded person?
I don't think that learning agriculture makes you a well-rounded person.
You don't think you could possibly benefit of learning the difference between growing a flower and sticking a seed on your porch and waiting for it to grow?
Only if I need to grow things for a living.
So you don't believe in any kind of inherent value in action, not moral, anything like that, such as building your own dollhouse that no one ever sees and you never
No,
sell.
I didn't say that at all. I think there's a lot of inherent action in someone exercising their skills. The thing is, you've chosen a specific skill and said this is what makes a well-rounded person, and I don't agree. I think there are a lot of things that can make a well-rounded person, and I certainly don't think that learning how to grow things, if you're never going to need the skill, is going to make you a well-rounded person.
Well, that's
You could learn
up for
anything.
debate. That's up for debate whether or not you ever need to grow anything, because, it's one of the, basic jobs that literally will go on forever. As long as there's humans and scarcity of resources, people will need to grow food, and just, in addition to that, just the general aesthetic pleasingness of having, potted plants, etc., your own tree in the house.
Yeah, but now you're talking from your subjective perspective to find it aesthetically pleasing.
That is true, but it's almost a universal concept to find nature aesthetically pleasing. I think you would be quite labored to find someone who said, I absolutely hate the way trees look.
Yeah, but you're not growing trees, you're growing crops.
Mangoes and pomegranates are crops and trees.
Yeah, okay, but we're not talking about nature as in the wilds. We're talking about cultivation. I'm not saying it's necessarily unaesthetically pleasing, but it's just, this is just a bit of a funny thing to propose, in my opinion.
Well, I think we kind of went off on a tangent about going into individuals' do's and don'ts. We were talking about, let's see, the original point was civic nationalism and meritocracy, correct? That's what we were getting into, such as the meritocratic judgment of citizenship. So, do you have a problem with that, judging citizenship based on...
My problem is it's an authoritarian position to take. I don't see why the state should be the one in control of this. And then to exile people on the idea that they've created a test that they didn't pass. That you could find yourself with a test that's very exclusive.
Well, it would be just a basic, like I said, my two basic criteria would be citizens are both parents. Failing or not passing, that's pretty obvious to everyone. It's not exactly a subjective thing. And second would just be IQ around the average, or maybe even, depending on legislation, slightly below.
Parents thing. That's not necessary if you're going to do that. And that means that you're going to have... what IQ are you looking at for citizenship? Just out of interest.
I would say maybe... I usually say around half a standard deviation of the national average.
Okay, so what between what and what?
So if the national average is 85, the minimum IQ would be... Well, actually, the national average is about 95, depending on continental versus individual subgroups. But I would say if the average is 95, the minimum would be about 85.
Right, and so people below 85 just get exiled from your country.
They would not gain citizenship status. And at that point, they would either have to, like I said, use kind of a loophole, which I don't really have a solution to, and remain under the custody of their parents, or they would just not be given citizenship and treated the same as anyone else who doesn't have citizenship who's in the country.
So you want to treat them like metics. So non-voting, no rights.
It's not that they don't have rights, it's just not a part of the government's jurisdiction to enforce the rights. I mean, if your rights are violated in Britain, the American government has no jurisdiction to come over there and try to, enforce.
Yeah, but I'm not an American
rights.
citizen.
Exactly, and they won't be an American citizen either.
Yeah, but they were born and raised in America. Both of their parents are American. And you've just set an arbitrary bar that these people are too stupid to attain. So not necessarily any fault of their own. I mean, people don't choose to be stupid.
But again, if they're not functioning members of society, then they just become an ever-going burden to the state and the rest of the people.
This doesn't mean they're not a functioning member of society, and let them be burdens on the state. I'm not bothered by that.
You're not bothered by that?
No, they're not burdens on me, so fuck them.
You pay for it with taxes and such like that.
Yeah, but I'm going to pay taxes anyway.
Yeah, but you pay more not. If tomorrow 400,000 mentally retarded people are born in Britain, your taxes are going to go up to accommodate those extra 400,000.
Yeah, but I don't really want to live in the sort of state that victimizes the mentally retarded. I'm happy to pay a little bit more taxes to not live in a country that victimizes the retarded.
Well, it's not victimization, it's just not a part of the jurisdiction.
It's targeting them for reasons beyond their control because of a function of their body. So I'm not down with that.
Well, yeah, but, I mean, if you work in a government call center, but you're mute, maybe it was something you couldn't control, and you were in an accident and your vocal cords are gone, the government shouldn't hire them to work in a call center because of something they couldn't control. It's just not part of the jurisdiction of being a call person.
But that doesn't mean they should be exiled from the country or denied citizenship. And I don't think governments really control that many call centers. You wouldn't hire someone who couldn't do a job, obviously. But I don't think that means they can't do anything else.
And the majority of jobs, the lower your IQ, the less applicable to the jobs you are.
No, it just means that you just end up with lower paying and lower difficulty jobs. For example, manual labor doesn't require particularly high intelligence.
Yeah, exactly, but again, this gets into the whole point, which you even agreed with Millennial Woes on. When you import massive amounts for cheap labor, all it does is reduce the job market for
yeah, of
all
course,
the
and
people.
I'm against mass immigration.
And so then you must be also against people who also take up these other low-paying jobs, whether they were born 2 miles north or 2 miles south of the Mexican border.
What? Sorry, are you saying that I should be against a nation's citizens getting low-paying jobs? Let's see, if the stupid people in society, I'm for them having the low-paying jobs.
You should be for them doing as much as they can, as long as they're a citizen, but
but that is as much as they can, because they're not very smart.
Yeah, but you should prefer, it's kind of a weird kind of counterfactual thing to say, but you should prefer that person be smarter than that person not be as smart. So thus, you should, enact social policies to encourage that all the people who are citizens are, of course, of that certain caliber.
Yeah, but who's going to do all the manual labor then?
Oh, you don't know the amount of bureaucracy and expansion that's been going on in America. With any kind of cutbacks, you could easily have just a center for IQ testing, and I would just
No. What I mean though is, look, if you exile all of the idiots from your society, then who is going to do the jobs that require idiots to do? Because smart people aren't going to do them because they're boring.
Obviously, part-time work, teenagers, maybe people with extra time, etc. And a point that you kind of implied that I'm not advocating for is a mass deportation. What I would say would be more scrupulous, if that's the right word, is to just kind of impose the policy, such as at 21 you take the IQ test, if both your parents are citizens, then you qualify for citizenship. It wouldn't be retroactive. So all the people who are here and alive now, there wouldn't be some mass
You're still going to be deporting millions of people who fall below your threshold.
Not daily. I mean, every single person has a birthday. I mean, I would imagine something like
once a year you're going to have, like, I don't know, 3 million students taking this test, and you'll probably end up deporting, like, I don't know, 700,000 of them or something like that.
No, I wouldn't say even once a year. Maybe like once a month or so on, in groups of like maybe 100 or 200.
Okay, but over the course of a year, you're going to have deported hundreds of thousands of people.
Initially, but once the IQ initially rises, since IQ is mainly heritable, you would gradually see less and less and less and less.
I don't know if IQ is mainly heritable. I think there are definite arguments and studies to imply that their education plays a large role in it.
Oh,
but not only that, you seem to be failing to understand what I mean. You need the people at the bottom to support the people at the top.
Indeed, but that's only a relative judgment. The people at the bottom can be IQ 85, while the people at the top can still be 140, etc. And
yeah, but what I mean is, you need people. You need lots of people doing lots of menial work. Janitorial work, the sort of stuff that doesn't require, or maybe janitorial is not necessarily a good example, but you need people keeping society running, and it's the idiots that do this, because they can't do any better.
Well, then that's just a judgment of whether they're a net benefit or a net drain on the economy.
Yeah, but they're a net benefit, they work.
Well, I mean, we don't really have any kind of studies that prove the net benefit of society to IQ. The closest we have are based on demographics and immigration, and those usually find correlation.
IQ is not relevant as to whether they're a net benefit. The question is, do they earn money? And they do earn money, just not very much of it. But they pay tax.
Yeah, but they don't put in as much as they take out, as in net.
No, but what do you mean? What are they taking out?
They're taking out things like benefits and stuff like that. If they're, very stupid, they may be prone to accidents, prone to, costing medical insurance.
No, but we're not talking about the disabled. We're talking about stupid people who have jobs.
Well, I think we're defining stupid people differently. Have you talked to a person around 85 IQ, 85, 75?
I don't know. I don't IQ test people I talk to.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me put it this way, and also there's another thing I would like to say that I didn't get to a few seconds ago, that you always profess about self-actualization. You only really get that at about an IQ of 90 plus. You and me talking conversations about things such as higher politics, metaphysical morality, etc. You only get that like 95 plus. When the IQ test was invented, the old standard was 85 was mental retardation. But then American blacks held protests that the majority of them would be considered mentally retarded, and it was lowered to 75. But I would like to interject that earlier I was trying to say, you need to see the Norwegian documentary Herjavask. It's brainwashing. It's done by this Norwegian comedian, and one of the particular sections is over IQ and inheritance of IQ and such like that. And it's basically him interviewing all kinds of geneticists, neurobiologists, and then comparing to what the Norwegian social scientists say that IQ is irrelevant and such like that, and basically the argument of environment.
Yeah, okay, my point is, people who are idiots, the people with a low IQ can still work in menial jobs that aren't going to go away. They're still going to earn money, they're still going to contribute to society. They just don't happen to meet the standard of intelligence that you prefer for your elite citizen.
But the jobs that they're doing are quickly being replaced by either technology, or they could be filled by people who, are citizens to be in this ideal situation. People who are like 16 in high school and work part-time work.
I don't agree with you. I don't think there are enough high schoolers to replace every person doing a menial job. But not only that, I wouldn't want to do a menial job. Just because you're young doesn't mean you have to necessarily do something menial. You can do something enterprising. I mean, when I was a 13-year-old, I went around knocking on doors because we didn't have like a paper delivery service. So I'd knock on someone's door and say, "Hey, do you want to pay me money to bring you a paper on Sunday?" And so every Sunday I ran this sort of entrepreneurial paper round when I was 13. And I wasn't just packing bananas into a box. It was something that I was actually in control in. And if I did well, and sometimes I had quite a large client base, and so I ended up with quite a big Warhammer 40,000 army. Because
and that's great, but that person with 85 or 75 IQ, they won't be going out looking for a job.
No,
They'll
but
only get a job when they're guardians
supermarket.
or they're forced to get a job.
Yeah, I want them stocking shelves in my local supermarket, or sweeping things, or something like that. Something that literally requires no IQ to do.
Well, with the laws of, supply and demand, what's stopping just an increase of pay and people willing to work for that as a part-time thing?
Because intelligent people get frustrated and bored.
And that's where they can excel in their local environment, or they could demand a pay raise, etc., etc.
Yeah, but it doesn't really matter because they're going to hate the work.
Well, I think you'd be quite optimistic for everyone to find a job that they work because they like it rather than because they have to.
Well, I don't think everyone's going to.
I don't even think a vast majority. I don't even think
no,
like
I don't think the vast
90% like
majority
what
will
they
either.
work.
But I don't think that will change under an authoritarian system.
Well, I don't think it's authoritarian except to non-citizens.
So it is authoritarian.
Well, to non-citizens.
Yeah, so it's an authoritarian system.
It's as authoritarian as a wall, depending on what side you're on. I mean, you can't cross over, but as long as you're on your side, you can do whatever you want.
Well, a wall isn't a system of government, but... Okay, so I don't agree with you on the exiling idiots just because they happen to be born stupid.
Alright, well, so you think institutionalization is the best course of action for those who aren't functional in society?
Well, I think you'd best describe what not functional is, and then what you mean exactly by institutionalization.
People that would either starve if left to their own devices, or people who just simply can't get along in society and thus would starve because they can't integrate into the economy.
But I mean, in what way do you mean they're just starve? I mean, why can't these people just get menial jobs?
Because either they're just, Alright, so let's think of an example. A menial job such as a janitorial work, as you said. Many people are applying for the same job, and if the employer sees a person with an IQ of 75 and clearly how they look and act is reflective of that versus a person who is higher, let's say 85, he's clearly going to pick the person with a higher IQ and reflects that higher intelligence.
Yeah, sure. So the person with an IQ of 70 might end up picking strawberries in a field or something.
If they can get a job at all, which they probably
Well,
won't.
there's always people looking for that. One of the problems we've got over here is that they literally can only get foreigners to do the job, but that's because, comparatively, the job pays so well. Native British who aren't retarded don't want to do it.
Well, are you sure that's true? Because that's a bit of propaganda that's played over
Yeah,
here.
I'm actually sure that's true, because I used to live in Cornwall, and we used to do that. We used to go out to a farmer's field and then pick like a sack of strawberries, and it was just cash in hand work. And one of the things that they were always looking for people, always.
Well, it's a bit of propaganda over here in America by the Obama administration. The amount of people that are not working, including people not part of the workforce, it's about a third. So we have a third of the population that are just either not looking for work, unemployed, all this other kind of stuff. So when a third of the country is unemployed, I think there's already plenty to...
That's not true. I've just looked it up. Unemployment in the US is 5%.
Yeah, unemployment, that doesn't... The way that we calculate unemployment is we don't take people who give up looking for a job, people who purposely go and live on disability, people who are retired, etc., etc. The amount of people
I don't think the
jobs,
retired and the disabled come into it. I mean,
it doesn't come into that statistic the way the Bureau of Labor reports on it.
Right, so, no, look, people who aren't in the labour force, Let me just look this up, because I don't think you're representing this correctly. So who is counted as unemployed? People who are classified as unemployed, they do not have a job, have actively looked for work in prior 4 weeks, and are currently available for work. Right, so there are people looking for work who don't count as unemployed. Is that your contention?
There are people who are not working because they're no longer seeking employment.
Well, no, by this definition, according to Wikipedia's definition of unemployment in the United States, people who haven't actively looked for work... Sorry, people who are unemployed, so they do not have a job, and have actively worked, right? So people who are not looking for work and not unemployed, are not classed as unemployed.
Yes. It's a pretty silly system.
That is a pretty silly system.
So the person who says, I've been trying for 5 months and I just can't find a job, if I just claim disability and get welfare, then I can live, and I am just going to say that, oh, my hip is bad, my doctor says it's bad, please give more money.
That's just because you live in an exploitable system, though. That's not necessarily that the idea is a bad idea, it's that it's calibrated badly.
Well, it's not that it's just calibrated badly, it's that the people are there to exploit in the first place. The goal of just removing people who were just, being leeches upon the system would be to discourage that behavior in general.
Well, yeah, but you could discourage that behavior in different ways, couldn't you? For example, not giving them money if they weren't looking for work.
I think deporting them is a lot more politically feasible than just letting people who are just braying jackasses who don't want to work die in the street.
Well, I don't think they will just die in the street. I think eventually they will be motivated to work. I don't think these people hate work more than food.
Tell that to the people in Atlanta here who I grew up around.
Yeah, but that's because they get money. If they didn't get money, then they would get a job. They would have to. I mean...
No, then they engage in practice such as stealing or illegal work, such as selling drugs, etc.
Yeah, but you're always going to get crime. There's really not a lot you can do about that.
Well, hopefully not once you, like I said, I believe as people become more intelligent, they're more inclined to, choose better decisions, and not better just in self-serving, better as in moral, better as in self-actualizing, as you put it, etc. So,
yeah, I don't know. I think I'd have to see some studies between correlation between intelligence and morality.
You don't think that it's just a general thing that a person with an IQ of 100 is more likely to even consider his moral ramifications than a person who's like 85?
I don't know. The thing is, people, as they get more intelligent, they find better rationales for breaking the rules. For example, drug users are much more likely to be intelligent people than stupid people. Because stupid people, and I'm guessing that what they do is they get told what to do and they think, well, I'm not smart enough to figure out the reason why this is, but I've been told by someone I trust that this is the wrong thing to do. So and in my experience, they do tend to stay within the rules.
Well, that just sounds like the what's it called? The hump of idiocy or whatever? No, the hump of ignorance or something like that. But a general trend in just social behavior is kind of like a sine curve. The more ignorant you are, the more willing you're to talk or engage in a subject or action, but then you realize you don't know as much, then it kind of goes down until, you become more such like that. So it might be the case that, mentally retarded people aren't using drugs. As they become a bit more intelligent, 85, maybe 90, they say, I can make my own choices and I choose to do this or whatever. But then as you get even higher and higher, you say, oh, that's a bad choice, I don't want to do it.
I don't think that's the case. I don't think that particularly intelligent people have got an aversion to committing crime. In fact, I think they think that they can figure out how to not get caught. So I don't think there's a necessary correlation there.
You don't think that? I mean, this is like a really basic thing. One of the big arguments of why crime even exists is, besides poverty, they say it has to do with intelligence and opportunity stemming from the intelligence. They make the case that if people were more successful, they wouldn't do crime, and since success
but that's poverty. That's the cause of poverty. If people had more money, they'd be less incentivized to steal. But that doesn't mean that doesn't mean that intelligent people won't climb corporate ladders and be corrupt. I mean, I'm sure there are people who are corrupt purely for the pleasure of being corrupt. But again, I mean, what sort of percentage of the population do you think you're talking about here? Because I think you're talking about a very small percentage.
Of what? Stupid people who commit crime, or intelligent people who commit crime?
Really. I'm sure that the population isn't the proportion isn't the majority.
And also, the difference between high and low crime is, you know, the kinds of crime. But with the low percent, I think, and this is a general guess based on experience and also percentage of demographics, I would say maybe about 14 or 15% of the bottom stupidest people are the ones that are committing crime. But of the top percent, you would have to say if you include political corruption or not, because if you include political corruption, then it would be something much larger, like 40%. But if you're not including...
I don't see why we wouldn't include that. But I don't really think this is really that productive, because we don't have these statistics either way.
Right.
Either way, I don't agree that exiling anyone born in the country as a natural citizen is the right thing to do.
So you are completely in favor of a system for Britain such as we have in America, where we had the 1965 Immigration Act?
Well, tell me how that works.
Well, before that, the immigration policy was based off of the preamble to the Constitution. It's the Constitution, it's the Constitution preamble that says, "For us and our posterity." Until that time, it was basically considered, alright, both of your parents have to be citizens, and you're born on American soil, or in some rare cases, a military base abroad to American soldiers, you become a citizen. With the 1965 Immigration Act, it was passed under the promise that it wouldn't cause demographic shifts in America, but it basically created the doctrine of birthright citizenship. Your parents didn't have to be American citizens. If you're just simply born on the soil, then you're immediately entitled to American citizenship.
I, as far as I'm aware, it's always been that way in Britain. I don't think there's ever been a time when not being born in Britain. Well, if you're born in Britain, you're a British citizen.
Modern day Britain, I think back in the time when you and Ireland and Scotland were still separated, I don't think you got immediate British citizenship by being born up in Scotland.
Well, yeah, before the nation of Britain, obviously not. But I think that you would have been considered a Scottish citizen. I mean, you know, this is probably before the concept of citizenship altogether. So.
Well, no, it would have been far after that, because Rome definitely had citizenship, and even they had a policy where even if you're born in Rome, doesn't mean you're Roman.
Yeah, but you didn't have British citizenship. The concept of citizenship in medieval Europe. It was a feudal system. It wasn't the same thing.
They didn't use the word citizenship, and they definitely didn't have the concept, and I'm not looking for the word peasant. Maybe something closer to subject.
Yeah,
I think they consider things
exactly.
like you're subject to this king, even if you're in Wales, but you're from Belgium, and they say, hey, you can't talk bad about the British king, and they say, well, I'm a subject of Wales. A subject of Belgium.
Yeah, but that's a different political dynamic altogether. Being the subject of someone isn't the same as being a citizen. In fact, it's the opposite.
Well, yeah, it's just a matter of participation and representation. It's still a part of the jurisdiction of the governing body.
Yeah.
And so that's...
but the difference is a subject has no power over the sovereign, whereas a citizen should have power of their government.
Indeed, and the government only has power within its jurisdiction, which includes that sovereign body.
Well, a government is a sovereign entity. But when I say sovereign, I was really talking about an autocrat. Mm-hmm. And you had people who were subject to Rome who weren't Roman citizens. But this is the thing, they fall outside of the political body. But I don't think a citizen should fall outside of the political body of their nation.
Oh, well, definitely not. I'm just saying... What am I just saying? I'm saying that the government has a particular jurisdiction of the citizens, and there should be a qualification to be a citizen that isn't just simply being born within the nation's control of the,
I understand.
of the area.
I disagree for the reasons we've been through. So.
Hmm. But so could you elaborate then why you disagree with civic nationalism or meritocratic nationalism versus your cultural nationalism? Why would it be better for citizenship to be determined based on your Britishness rather than your
Let's assume that you're correct when you say that people's intelligence is fixed from birth.
People's IQ is, yeah.
Yeah.
What you know and how fast you can know are the difference.
Yeah, but either way, if the person is literally born stupid and will never have the capacity to become smart because it's fixed in their genes, why should they be punished for that?
Because it's simply a fact of life. It's just simply reacting accordingly. You don't get the one-legged man to be in a bicycle contest the same as you don't allow a stupid person to be your doctor.
Yeah, but this doesn't mean there aren't things for stupid people to do, and why should they not have rights just because they're stupid?
Because being stupid disqualifies them from being a citizen, and citizenship is what gives the jurisdiction for the enforcement
being
of the
stupid
rights.
doesn't actually disqualify them from being citizens, and they're still people, aren't they? So,
well, yeah, but the government should only act within its jurisdiction. I don't want my American government coming there and trying to enforce rights in Britain any more than vice versa.
well, yeah, but we're talking about within a sovereign nation. We're not talking about internationally. But okay, so is there anything else you wanted to move on to, or shall we wrap it up?
We could get into the particular topic that we briefly touched upon, education versus genetics.
Okay, I don't have any studies to give you a good argument on that, to be honest. I mean, I don't know. It might be genetic. It might be due to education. I've seen arguments both ways, so I'd have to do a bit of preparation for that.
We've talked about intelligence, but I think the area that we haven't touched upon yet is, as you put it, culture and integrating and becoming British. You think that a person could be entirely educated to be inseparable from British citizenship, while I put it that there is a genetic tendency for them to either be more inclined or less inclined to.
Yeah, but it's the fact that you said tendency.
Well, that's all genetics is. Either it's all about tendencies and physics. It can be 100%, 0%, 60, or 40.
But let's be fair, they're not 100%. None of these tendencies are 100%. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a tendency. It would just be a fact. All black people have dark skin.
And that is,
it's
in
not
fact,
a tendency for black people to have dark skin.
Well, it is a tendency. It's up at 99 because there is albinism, etc.
That's due to a disorder. But you see my point. It's not. You can't take an average and apply it to everyone, because then you're applying it to people it doesn't apply to.
Well, but that is just the problem with just basic civics and managing a city-state. You have to take average and say what will work for the majority of people. I mean, it's a...
Yeah, but I don't think expelling them and stripping them of their rights is something that works for everyone. Well, I mean, it's for a start, no one who's going to be doing the stupid jobs. You need these people to do the crap jobs that you don't want to do. Intelligent people are not going to be stuck lifting bins. They're not going to do that.
I think many families with kids who are just lazing around, or maybe they get into some kind of trouble or hobby that the parents don't like, and say, "No, you're getting a job," and etc., etc. But going back a second, what did you say right before the argument about jobs and filling them with stupid people?
I can't remember off the top of my head. What issue did you want to talk about?
Oh, yeah, I remember now. Why do you have a problem with deporting people who grew up in the country who are not citizens, yet you oppose things such as the 65 immigration bill that, has anchor baby citizenship? They were both born here, grew up in the country,
I'm not necessarily opposed to that. I don't oppose that. I think that if someone is a naturalized citizen, being born and raised there, they've never been anywhere else. If they've never been to another country, I doubt they've got citizenship in that country.
Mm-hmm. So you would actually support that if someone from for Morocco. I mean, there's even a huge industry for that. It's called what's it called? Birther tourism or something like that. Tourism or whatever.
I'm not familiar with how often it happens or anything like that.
Well, it's an industry in many third and second world countries to purposely go on vacation or, as you say, holiday to places just for the woman to give birth, and then they get either kind of temporary citizenship or depending on the laws.
No, but the thing is that I don't think if the parents aren't residents of the country, I don't think that the people being being born, the act of being born isn't what I think they should be gaining their citizenship on. It's the fact that their parents are residents of the country and have no other country to go to because the people who have just been born have never been anywhere else.
Well, isn't that just the problem of the other country? I mean, if you kick someone out of your house and they have no place else to go, I mean, it's not really your call where they can go, just out of your house.
Yeah, but it's pretty against the sort of values I hold. You know, I like the fact that my country comes from the Christian tradition.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't think that people should be victimized for things beyond their control, especially if they happen to have been born and raised in the country I live in and happen to. I mean, why do you think they should just be foisted on another country? Why? I mean, don't you think that's unfair to the people in the other country? Here's all our stupid and violent people.
Well,
it's not your fault, but you know.
Well, depending on the individual, it may actually be better for them. I think Somalia's average IQ is, 65 or something like that? So if we deport a few hundred or a few thousand people, about 85 or other thing, our average IQ goes higher and theirs gets higher as well.
Maybe, but again, I don't think it's a good idea.
Mm-hmm. But going into that particular point, born and raised, I mean, you're the one who purports education is the biggest factor in them being culturally a part of the nation. So why is that? Where is the particular line between a 2-year-old who was born and raised in Arizona outside of the public education system to people who only speak Spanish different than a 15-year-old who was, born as an anchor baby, etc.?
Yeah, but what? Sorry, I don't really understand the question. What do you mean? What's the difference between them?
Like your whole point with education and them being a part of the nation is them being raised in the country. So why should it be I'm thinking of a different way to phrase this. Why is it less of a problem to deport a 2-year-old back to Mexico who was born on American soil than it is to deport a 15-year-old to American soil? And if there is such a huge problem, where do you make the distinction?
Well, I don't think you should deport any children.
None? Even if their parents can't stay? They should become wards of the state?
Well, obviously, if they're going to be with their guardians, yes, of course. But what I mean is, why do you want to deport children?
Well, because they're simply not a part of the citizenship. I mean, it's just, sorry, but you can't be here.
Why wouldn't they be naturalized citizens? Why wouldn't they be considered American citizens? If they're born in America, they've never been to another country, they hold American values. Why do you not want them as American citizens?
Well, there's 2 particular reasons. One you'll definitely disagree with because of the genetic, predisposition that you got into with millennial woes. But the second,
I will disagree with that.
Yep, but the second position, which you might be more agreeable to, is it is simply not. It's not feasible to universally set the precedent. If this kid is born on American soil and gets to become American citizen, it just only encourages this. It's called birthright tourism. Birthright tourism from everywhere across the world.
You can just be opposed to immigration, could you not?
You could.
And like I said, I think if the parents are residents in the country, not just on holiday, obviously.
Mm-hmm. But what about just temporary residence, such as a work visa, and it expires like in
No,
a few
permanent
months?
residency. I mean, this just seems to be a bit hair-splitting now. You know, I think I've been quite clear.
But once again, even if you do that with permanent residency, it just kind of sets a precedence for anyone who comes here and gives birth just can automatically become an American citizen.
Anyone who's a permanent resident and gives birth to an American citizen, because the person doesn't live in another country, they never will live in another country. Well, they never have. The person who's been born has never been to this other country. They don't have citizenship there. So, obviously...
Well, they might, depending on the laws. Some countries have just
possibly, but you can't be sure of that, so... I don't think that... I don't think we should be deporting children like that.
But this is disagreeing with your policy earlier that having a qualification for citizenship be both your parents be citizens should be a requirement.
No, that was your policy. I don't necessarily think that they have to be citizens. I mean, one parent could be a citizen, the other not.
But then, But that only raises a few other problems, because what if that other parent demands rights for the child? And I believe they had that in Australia, where
then they
one
can
parent
have dual citizenship, I guess.
Well, no, the issue was with the Australian thing is one parent said, I'm the legal guardian, I want them in my country, and the government backed them up and said, yeah, he has to be with the government, we don't recognize that other parent being the guardian.
Okay,
and
well,
the same thing happened in
arbitration
Australia.
based on individual cases, then. I don't really see why this is, like... This doesn't seem to be like the biggest problem to be worrying about.
You have to get into a lot of specifics here with Mexican immigration, because we get all kinds. We've had problems with immigration from Cuba, all of South America, etc., etc. People just hiding their children in buses, sending them over, and all other kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah, I'm more than happy for the current laws to be enforced. You know. So, I mean, I don't have a problem with, people who have sent their children on a bus to smuggle them into America. I have no problem those people being repatriated to their country and their parents.
So you have no problem deporting those children?
Yes, but these children are not citizens of the United States. They're being smuggled into the United States. They're Mexican citizens.
And what would be the big difference between smuggling a pregnant woman in giving birth versus just smuggling the newly
they're not
born
a permanent resident, man. Come on, okay, let's... I think that people listening will understand that we've kind of gone over this a few times now. So, what do you have another subject, or should we wrap it up?
Another subject, I had that third one, but I think we've almost kind of covered it between what made... Actually, we haven't really covered it. What made Europe excellent and what made America exceptional. Now, I think the closest that you're going to agree with me, because you kind of implied it earlier, was liberal values and Christian ethics. Right? That's what
Okay, I just want to say I don't think America is exceptional.
Was exceptional.
I don't think it was exceptional.
You don't think it ever was during 1950s or 1930s?
No, not at all. I think anyone in the position that America was in would do exactly the same and be exactly the same sort of thing.
By position, do you mean just historical context?
Yeah, historical, geographical, cultural.
Well, with various similarities, then Canada should have the same result as us. I mean, they're pretty close geographically.
Canada, it doesn't have the same geographical and population advantages America has.
Yes, back to the population density argument.
Well, that's because that seems to be the reason why people do particularly well.
Well, I just think you have it backwards, that prosperity and greatness of the people doing well in the area causes people to become more population dense, not the other way around.
Yeah, but a lot of this is not down to some sort of genetic superiority of the people. I mean, why would the Arabs be so cultured in the, say, 11th century, when the Germans and the British and the North Europeans were so backward? Why would that be the case if it was genetic superiority?
Well, it's not just simply genetic superiority. It's the thing to look at with superiority and inferiority is it implies entirely upon the context. That's how evolution and genetic works. The Europeans were best, suited and you could say superior to growing up within that particular geographic area with those circumstances and such like that. And it wasn't 11th century, it was 13th century when Islam came about. Are we talking about pagan Arabic?
No, Islam was conceived in the 7th century.
Yeah, alright, so I would say they were a lot more backward just in terms of Islam. I mean, true, they were a lot more collectivized and, as you would put it, dense as a population, but I don't think they...
Well, no, they weren't necessarily. I mean, the Middle East had far greater population than Northern Europe at the time. But, I mean, my point is, right, you have... And people like the Mongols, these are perfect examples of this. You have basically uneducated Arabs who are, in many cases, completely illiterate. And they go on to become just the most impressive scholars and the most educated people in the world, ruling a gargantuan empire. And if they're such genetic inferiors, how could they have done that?
Well, that's just because
the genetically superior Europeans were languishing in barbarism.
Well, that's just because of their authoritarianism. All the people that were actually capable were the ones ruling, and thus directed all the actions and resources of all the people below them. Else the people below them would just be killed or executed or anything like that.
Okay, but why isn't North Korea like the most advanced nation on Earth then, if it's authoritarianism that does this?
It's authoritarianism that does... To put it, authoritarianism remedies an unsmart population. If an unsmart population is directed by a smart person, it will be better suited than just a unsmart population being directed by unsmart people. It's the case of blind leading the blind versus...
Yeah, okay, but what I mean is, North Korea is fucked, but Asians have, on average, higher IQs than white people, and North Korea is a totalitarian dictatorship. So North Korea, by that standard, should be a wonderfully successful country.
Except the people being ruled are not stupid people. They don't have, besides the ideology and everything like that, besides the genetics, they also don't have very much resources. If North Korea controlled, like, for example, all of Russia, they'd be doing a lot better, and I'm no way supporting North Korea or communism or anything like that.
Yeah, but if that were the case, wouldn't communism have been a wonderfully economically successful system?
No, because it's purely egalitarian in the forms of enforcing equality. It doesn't allow the smart people to rule based on, I'm better, you do what I say. It's everyone is everyone, so everyone directs everyone.
Okay, I can't say I agree with your assessment here. I'm just going to be honest.
Do you see the difference between a system controlled by everyone and everyone's stupid?
There is no system controlled by everyone.
Well,
there is no such thing.
That's the intended system with representation.
Yeah, but there is no such thing.
Mm-hmm.
This is why anarchists are broadly stupid.
Mm-hmm.
There is literally no such... Just, honestly, I don't think you're representing what was going on at the times and necessarily the impetus behind all of these things. I mean, education changed the Arabs so dramatically, and the same happened with the Mongols. And yet these people should have been absolutely backward savages, incapable of high culture.
I don't think the Mongols had a formalized education system. I mean, they had a culture of warrior code. But... No, I think they were mostly migratory. I mean, they didn't really have
until they conquered the known world. Oh, sorry, someone's calling me.
It's no problem.
But yeah, they did become very advanced. Go Google Kublai Khan.
I know they became conquerors, but I don't think they really
put
down established roots.
They became intellectuals as well. This was the problem. They saw their civilization changing because they were becoming the products of their environment, and their environment was very soft, plush, upper class aristocracy after conquering China. And so they used to send Mongolian boys back to Mongolia to be raised there because they understood that the environment is what made them tough.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you're saying environment, I hope you're implying at least just the culture of the people, not like some kind of physical condition.
No, the physical geography of Mongolia made Mongolians tough. The physical conditions that they experienced when they were living in China made them weak.
But then that would contradict what is just kind of self-evident with evidence of the greatness within China itself, not Eastern China, as they also conquered, but other way around, Western China as they also conquered, but Eastern China as well, when Chinese empires, etc., and you would argue population density, etc., etc.
Yeah, but no, look, I'm not saying population density is the only factor. These are almost irreducibly complex things that we're talking about, and you want to talk about them in such broad terms that this doesn't come to any kind of solution. You don't really come to any understanding of them. So it's kind of pointless to do this.
But will you say that at least IQ is a very important factor of it?
In what?
In just things such as success and just general success and achievement in life.
Sure.
And I'm not talking just economic either. I'm talking about self-fulfillment.
Being intelligent certainly gives you many advantages towards success in life.
So then shouldn't it be a good thing to encourage that in any particular group of people, there be more smart than dumb people?
Yes, it should. But I don't think that we should victimize the stupid people for having been born stupid.
So you think it'd be better if the group were smarter, but you don't think that there's any possible way to make it smarter without causing some kind of harm to others?
Look, I think that the sort of society you're suggesting is totally unfeasible. I don't think it will work in any way, shape, or form. I don't think it's moral to expel people just because they're stupid, and I think it's absurd to suggest that we'll just send them to another country. Why another country would accept a different country's idiots willingly is beyond me. But I don't think we've got any right to do that. I think this is just an absurd, highly authoritarian scenario. So no, I don't agree with any of this.
But your main qualm with it is they have nowhere to go, right?
No, my main qualm with it is immoral.
So if they had, say, dual citizenship with Canada, and we said you don't qualify for citizenship, and they could go back to Canada, you would be equally opposed to sending
them back? I don't see how anyone in your country would have the right to do that.
You don't think our country's government has the right to judge who is and is not a citizen?
No. No, not at all. That's ridiculous. I don't think the government should be able to determine who is a citizen based on an arbitrary characteristic.
Well, it's not arbitrary. It's an objective.
It is, it's IQ.
Oh.
Yeah, but it's still arbitrary. It's not like tied to morality or something. This isn't something that we're going to be like, and not only that, I don't think the government should be able to take away someone's right to be a citizen based on a characteristic like that. I think that's opening the doorway to such unbelievable abuse of the system. I think it's crazy, man. It gives the government so much more power that I would like to see a government have. I really don't think that it would benefit very many people if you gave any government that kind of power.
So, I'm trying to think of a way that we can abridge this. So,
well, I mean, it's okay if we can agree to disagree. I don't mind.
Yeah, but it's just that very concept that a government can't enforce citizenship is just kind of...
No. A government can't choose who becomes the citizen. That's decided by the legislative body,
But that's...
not the executive body, right?
Well, but I'm including government as a whole, all three branches, and also voting and such like that.
But then you've got to remember that the government, at least in Western-style democracies, is meant to be an extension of the will of the people.
Yes, so I don't see a problem if the people voted on a referendum to say we don't want people born...
Yeah, that's called the tyranny of the majority.
Yeah, I know, and the difference between republicanism and everything like that, but right now it's a kind of gray area within the law. You can't deny people rights, yet we deny rights to people all the time based on things they can't control, like age and everything like that.
Yeah, but this isn't like a sensible interpretation of what we mean by denying rights. When we're not just denying people rights because they're stupid, we deny people rights because they've done something wrong. For example, they've gone to prison, so we deny them the right to freedom of movement. You know, they're not old enough. I mean, okay, the age thing, that's a pragmatic argument, obviously. Mm-hmm. But it's just one of these things. I just think what you're being deliberately you're interpreting this in a deliberate way that's just absurd, and it's not going to craft the best civilization. It's going to craft a civilization that will eventually collapse in on itself. Intelligent people aren't like the saviors of civilization necessarily. You can get terribly intelligent people who do terrible, terrible things.
Well, then what would you qualify if everyone had a particular trait that they were more of? What would you say should be encouraged?
I just think people should be given a good education in morality.
But then that leads to the abuses that we've seen now, where Marxists, infiltrate academies.
They have not had a good education in morality.
The Marxists would disagree. They say they have the best materialist philosophy.
Yeah, but we're talking metaphysics, though, aren't we? So, we're not... That very materialist philosophy isn't necessarily moral. So, no, I certainly do not think that they have the moral high ground when it comes to discussing anything.
Mm-hmm. But, so, what about ideology? You want to promote ideology, but I don't see how you could do that without violating free speech or anything like that. You can't deport people for being Marxist or anything like that, so...
Well, no, I don't think we should deport people for being Marxists.
So you think that there's absolutely nothing a society could do if Marxist people decide to have triple the birth rate of other people and eventually just overrun the country? You think think it could be doomed?
I think that you would try and educate people about the dangers of Marxism, and hopefully they would make up their own mind. I mean...
And would they be able to better do that if they were more intelligent?
Well, no, there are lots of intelligent people who are Marxists.
Again, I think it's that hump of ignorance. I think it's about...
I think you're holding up intelligence as some panacea to problems, and it's not.
I think it's a pretty good solution to problems, because, I mean, if you don't have anyone intelligent, then you definitely don't have people who are the problem solvers.
Yeah, but it doesn't make you a good person to be intelligent. So you could put a terrible, terrible intelligent person in control, and they would do terrible things in a very smart way.
But I would say that they're the outliers.
Well, I'm sure that bad people who are stupid are the outliers. There are lots of stupid people who are not bad people.
I would disagree with that, because many of them don't even consider what is moral or not. They simply just take a hedonistic approach of pleasure good, pain bad.
I don't think they do. I don't think they do.
You don't think that hedonism motivates the less intelligent?
Maybe in your country, but no, in my country there are lots of stupid people who work very hard. Just because they're stupid doesn't mean they want to be bad.
But are they working hard for the value of working hard? Are they working hard for the benefit?
It doesn't matter why they're working hard. What matters is that they're working hard.
Well, from an economic point of view, not from a moral point of view.
Why? What's the difference?
From an economic point of view, mass immigration is a great thing because it lowers prices, etc., etc. But from
no. What I mean is not when you say economic, I assume you meant from what they contribute to the economy. But from a moral point of view, the fact that they are doing what they are doing to the best of their ability, even if it's not very high, makes them as moral as they can be, doesn't it?
Even if they're doing it for an evil intent?
Why would they be doing it for an evil intent?
Like I said, I think they're mostly motivated by a hedonism thing. Oh, I really want that new flat-screen TV. I hate
There
doing
are
it, but I gotta
definitely
work hard.
consumerist people, but this is down to education. This isn't down to a lack of morality.
But why do you think you can persuade people who follow the group tendency, who are less intelligent by education, to follow a independent, self-sufficient, and completely
Yeah, but I
moral?
don't think that we should be, as you were describing, independent and self-sufficient. I don't think people should be islands within civilization.
As I said before,
And the
be
thing is,
able...
all of this, there is nothing about being stupid that means you have to be immoral. I mean, if you were just given good instruction on what a moral person does, then a stupid person can follow these rules. They're not that hard.
even if it's at a detriment to the individual stupid person?
Why would it be a detriment to the individual stupid person?
Giving up your life to save another, donating to charity, spending your time for others.
That's not necessarily moral. I mean, they are moral acts, but they're not. That's not the totality of moralism, is it? I mean, you can be a good person by just holding the door for people and being polite.
Mm-hmm,
You don't have to donate to charity to be a good person. By not harming others, that's good enough for me.
Mm-hmm, but again, simply in not harming others, then you don't really achieve. You don't bring forth the best.
Honestly, I genuinely think a society where the least amount of people who harm others is an achievement in itself. I think.
Well, then that could be achievement by the every man's an island thing. If every man just stayed to himself, then
Yeah, but that's unrealistic. It's not going to happen, and it would actively degrade society.
Mm-hmm, but it would still fulfill the requirements.
Yeah, but there are better ways of doing it.
Such as telling people how they should and shouldn't act in accordance with cultural norms.
Yeah.
And again, I don't see how that couldn't be abusable as well.
I'm not suggesting it's perfect. I'm just suggesting it's better than your alternative.
Encouraging intelligence and hoping that intelligence breeds success and morals.
Yeah, I think that instructing people on how to live ethical and morally upright lives, all through their schooling years, all through their childhoods, produces better people than what you're suggesting, I think.
But I think the application of it, because even in your school systems and in many of the better school systems too, it's very kind of a soft totalitarian kind of way. They tell you this is how it is, do this, do this, do this. They don't create premises and allow people to form their own conclusions based upon the premises.
Yeah, I agree that the education system we have currently is in dire need of reform. But I don't think your reform would be the answer.
And even in the best case scenario with an education system, which would be, in my opinion, a kind of ancient Greek system where the already intelligent people would come to a master and then they would discuss and debate and come to conclusions. But
Yeah,
that could only
I think
be
that
possible
would be a
with
good thing,
intelligence.
don't get me wrong. But
And I don't think stupid people would be able to participate very well more than just sit there and listen and just accept everything said as the most...
Yeah, I agree. That's why I think higher education should be exclusive. I don't think that everyone should go to university, for example.
But if everyone could go to university
can't,
would be
stupid.
better.
They can't. There are some stupid people who shouldn't go to university.
So, kind of going off on that, you don't believe in things such as free education, everything like that, the state subsidizing people going to university.
No, honestly, I'm actually kind of okay with state-subsidized education. I would be okay with that.
Then isn't that also a form of discrimination to say you're too stupid to go to college, the government's not going to give you funding for your education?
Yeah, but the denial of funding is because they don't meet the academic requirements to get into university.
And so why couldn't we do that with just basic welfare requirements?
Because they're human beings who pay their tax.
Well, if they weren't citizens, they wouldn't have to pay taxes.
Yeah, but I think that they should all be citizens, and so they will all be paying taxes. But okay, I think we'll have to wrap it up there because it's getting on a bit now.
Yeah,
but,
sure.
Yeah, send me a link to this if you want. I'll share it on Twitter or whatnot.
Sure.
And yeah, okay. Thanks for talking.
Oh, and we forgot to mention, I said I would donate to a veterans or a food drive any profits I made from this. So, do you have a particular preference?
Oh, either one's fine. Veterans or food for the hungry is fine with me. Yeah. Yeah, either one's fine with me.
Yeah, for the food drive, I would probably choose Musk Ministries.
Okay. I mean, whatever's local to you, I would say.
All right. Well, thank you for this debate. I hope it wasn't too boring.
No, that's fine.